Hello, I'm Elisa Zhang, and I'm a physician as well as a life and money coach. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about Ibonds. So Ibonds are issued by the US government, and the I stands for inflation. So these are inflation-linked bonds. And the way the interest rate is calculated is that there is a base rate and then there's an inflation rate. And right now, because inflation is so high, if you buy an I bond currently, it actually is going to pay 9.62% interest. Now, the base rate right now is actually zero. So that 9.62% interest is all due to the high inflation that's being calculated for right now. And traditionally, these bonds haven't been very popular because they didn't really pay very much. Inflation has been low for quite some time. But starting last November, the rate that they're paying actually was significant enough that people started buying I bonds. So I bought my first set of I bonds in November of 2021, when it was just above 7% is what the payout is. And so, I bonds are really secure because they are backed by the full faith of the US government. And the US government fails, then we've got more to worry about than our bonds and stocks or any investments, right? So that's why that they're a really kind of safe investment. When you buy an I bond, you have to buy it from US Treasury Direct. There's only one place to buy them. You have to buy them electronically. And every person can only buy $10,000 a year in I bonds. If you've got a tax refund, you can actually buy another $5,000 through your tax refund. And if you have a business that has its own EIN, the business can actually also buy another $10,000 of I bonds. So if you have a large portfolio, then it's not really going to be a big dent in your portfolio. So again, what is a bond? A bond is just a loan. You're actually loaning money. So basically you're being the bank and you're loaning money to, in this case, the US government. When we talk about the US debt, that's in the form of bonds that have been issued. But there are lots of other places that can issue bonds. So you can have, state bonds, municipal bonds. So different government organizations can issue bonds in order to raise money. Different corporations can issue bonds in order to raise money. So these are all debt instruments. So with the I bond, when you buy it, it's not liquid for a year. So you can't get to that money for a year, but after a year, you can actually get that money back. But if you redeem the bond in less than 5 years, then you forfeit 3 months of interest. Other things about the I bond is that you don't actually have to pay any state or local taxes on it, but you do have to pay federal taxes. And it's not at the capital gains rate, it's actually going to be at the federal tax rate. So if you're in the 24% tax bracket, you're going to pay 24%, not the 15% capital gains tax, even if you hold it for over a year. And so the positive sides of the I bonds right now are the high interest rate. It's not liquid for a year, but after a year, you can get your money back out fairly easily. It's, very safe, and it's a much higher interest rate than what you're going to have in the bank. And right now, with stocks not doing so well, it does look attractive. But the thing to remember is that it's really just linked to inflation. And so your buying power is actually basically staying the same, because the idea is, inflation erodes our buying power. So if you have, $1,000 right now, and then you've got 9% inflation, then in the future, your $100 is only going to be worth like, $90, plus or minus a few dollars. And if you invest in an I bond, now that inflation is actually being covered, so your purchasing power actually stays the same, but you are paying taxes on that interest, so it's not quite actually keeping up completely with inflation. So it's not the same kind of investment as investing in stocks where you're really expecting things to actually go above inflation. But of course, stock market doesn't always go up, it goes up and down. So I don't really recommend you sell stocks to buy I bonds, but if you have money that's sitting in a bank account and it's just cash, then you could invest in the I bonds. You don't necessarily want to invest your emergency fund in I bonds because, again, you can't get it out for a year, but you can consider what money you put in I bond a year later to be part of your emergency fund. So if you want to have, let's say, $50,000 in your emergency fund and you currently have $60,000 in there, then you could put $10,000 in and buy an I bond for $10,000. And then next year, if your emergency fund goes down to 40,000, you still have that 10,000 Ibonds, you could consider that 10,000 part of your emergency fund. Another place that money that you may want to use Ibonds, if you know there's something where you're saving up and you need that money in a kind of short, medium term, like you're saving up for a down payment for a house and you're expecting to buy the house in 2 to 3 years, or you're saving up for a car, or something that's kind of in the 2 to 5 year range, then that's actually a perfect place to put Ibonds, because you don't want to put that kind of money into the stock market or potentially even to like real estate, or most investments actually have a longer time horizon than 1 to 5 years. But again, if you take it out 4 or 5 years, then you do have that 3-month interest penalty, but it is still liquid, so you can get that money back. And of course, right now, the interest rates being paid in money market accounts and savings accounts is well less than, I don't even think there's anywhere paying 1%. So getting 9.62% is much higher than that. So your money sitting in a bank account is eroding buying power from inflation much more so. So this is where Ibonds can be helpful. So again, 10,000 per person, you buy it from treasurydirect.com. It does take an additional business day to buy. When you buy an Ibond, you typically want to actually buy towards the end of the month, because you actually get the interest for the entire month. So if you buy towards the end of the month, you're actually getting all the interest for the whole month. But that's kind of a small potato, so you really can buy it at any time. You don't want to necessarily want to like buy it like right at the very end of the month, and then it does take an extra business day or two to do that transaction. You may end up in the next month. The interest rates reset in November and May of each year, and your interest rate will be for 6 months, and then it'll go to the next interest rate. So some people actually bought some Ibonds instead of in May, bought them in April, so that they could actually get the 7% and the 9% guaranteed, because we don't know what will happen to the interest rate in November of this year. Maybe it won't be 9% anymore. Maybe it'll go back down to 3% because they'll decide inflation's not that bad. Don't really think that's going to be the case. It'll probably still be somewhat sizable. But you really never know. So hopefully that gives you some information about Ibonds and why people are buying them, and whether or not it's right for you and right for your portfolio. So if you'd like to learn more about me, you can always go to my website, growyourwealthymindset.com. I'm also planning on starting a podcast that will likely be released on June 1st. So if you would like to hear more material, not through video, but through audio only, check out my podcast, the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast. Thank you.